It was a gloomy autumn night, and I was driving alone on a remote country road. Dense forests flanked both sides of the road, with only the car's headlights piercing the darkness ahead. Due to delays during the day, I had to start my journey home after nightfall. The chilly autumn wind seeped into the car, making me tighten my jacket as I focused on the road ahead. I was unfamiliar with this route, relying solely on the GPS for guidance. Although the car heater was on, the solitude and darkness made me uneasy. The road was almost devoid of other vehicles. It felt like I was the only one driving through the endless night. Occasionally, the wind would stir up leaves that softly brushed against the windows, creating a lonely rustling sound. About half an hour into the drive, my car's fuel warning light came on. Checking the dashboard, I realized I needed to refuel. However, the surroundings were pitch dark with no sign of a gas station. Just as worry started to set in, I spotted a faint light ahead, which appeared to be a small gas station. I breathed a sigh of relief and slowed down, steering towards the gas station. It looked rather rundown, with dim lighting, a single pump, and a small shop. I parked next to the pump and got out to refuel. The surroundings were eerily quiet, with only the sound of wind rustling through the leaves. After refueling, I went into the shop to pay. The shop was empty, devoid of customers. A middle-aged man stood behind the counter, staring at me expressionlessly. I paid for the fuel and bought some snacks and drinks, intending to continue my journey. However, as I prepared to leave, I felt an inexplicable sense of oppression. The man's gaze never left me, making me feel deeply uncomfortable. Hastily leaving the shop, I quickly got back into my car, locked the doors, started the engine, and drove away from the gas station. But the sense of unease lingered. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, afraid the man might follow. Fortunately, the road behind remained empty, with no vehicles in pursuit. After driving for about 20 minutes, I noticed a car ahead, parked on the roadside with its hazard lights flashing. It seemed to be in trouble. My instinct was to stop and offer help, but my inner caution made me hesitate. Eventually, I decided to approach slowly and assess the situation. As I neared the car, I saw a figure standing next to it, waving. I slowed down further and saw a young man looking anxious. His car seemed genuinely broken down, with the hood open and the interior dark. After a moment of hesitation, I decided to get out and check on him. I approached and asked what was wrong. The young man explained that his car had suddenly broken down and needed a jump start. I returned to my car to get the jumper cables and helped him connect them. Just then, I sensed something strange. There were faint footsteps coming from the woods, yet no one was visible. A feeling of dread washed over me, and I hurried my actions, wanting to finish quickly. However, when I tried to start my car, the power didn't transfer. The young man's anxious expression morphed into a sinister smile as he slowly approached. At that moment, several men emerged from the woods, surrounding my car. They wielded iron bars and sticks, clearly with ill intentions. I realized I had walked into a trap. Men were accomplices, using the broken-down car to lure unsuspecting drivers. I dashed back to my car, locked the doors, and floored the gas pedal. The engine roared as I sped away, narrowly escaping the ambush. As I fled, I heard the sound of iron bars striking my rear window, shattering the glass. My heart pounded wildly as I accelerated, too afraid to look back. The car sped down the dark road, tree shadows flitting by in the headlights. The tension and fear were suffocating, but I knew stopping would mean great danger. After about 10 minutes, I saw lights in the distance and approaching town. I drove into the town at high speed, heading straight for the police station. I quickly parked, rushed inside, and sought help. The police acted swiftly, sending patrol cars to search for the attackers. With the police's assistance, I finally felt a sense of relief. They informed me that similar incidents had occurred recently on that road, with criminals using the broken-down car ruse to rob drivers. My quick reaction had saved me from their clutches. That night, I gave my statement at the police station and stayed in a local hotel. Early the next morning, the police escorted me safely out of the town, advising me to be extra cautious when driving at night. The incident happened in early 2020, and I was driving alone on the streets of Las Vegas. Having just finished a long day at work, I was in a good mood driving home. Las Vegas nights are always bustling, with neon lights flashing and crowds filling the streets, full of life. Even though it was already midnight, the city still seemed vibrant. As traffic thinned out, I left the city center and entered a relatively secluded street. Compared to the city center, This street was much quieter, with only the streetlight illuminating the road ahead. I didn't pay much attention because this was one of the shortcuts home, and despite the late hour, it usually wasn't a problem. The car radio played soothing music, and I enjoyed this rare moment of tranquility. Suddenly I noticed a car parked on the side of the road not far ahead, with its door open and a shadowy figure seemingly waving. Instinctively, I slowed down, trying to see what was happening. As I approached slowly, a sense of unease began to creep up. The figure stood in the middle of the road, appearing to try to stop my car. The shadows of the night made it difficult to discern his features, but something felt off. I stopped the car to observe the situation, but my instincts told me not to stay too long. I prepared to steer around the person and continued driving, but as I turned the wheel slightly to bypass him, I noticed he quickly moved towards my car, attempting to block my path. Alarms went off in my head. The situation was highly unusual and seemed to signal danger. Not wanting to take any risks, I swiftly stepped on the gas, intending to drive around him. However, the man moved quickly, almost running to stand in front of my car. I had to slam on the brakes, the car screeching to a halt. Nervously gripping the steering wheel, I scanned my surroundings for possible escape routes. At that moment, I saw an even more frightening scene. Several shadows emerged from the alleys on both sides of the street, rushing towards my car. Realizing it was a trap, I knew they intended to surround me, leaving me with no way out. Cold sweat broke out on my back, and my palms began to sweat from the tension. With the situation critical, I had to act quickly. I sharply turned the steering wheel and prepared to reverse out. The engine roared as I backed up, trying to escape these unwelcome intruders. As I reversed, I constantly checked my mirrors to ensure I didn't hit any obstacles. The men seemed to realize my intentions and quickened their pace, attempting to catch my car. Their movements were swift, suggesting they were well prepared. I felt unprecedented tension, my heart racing, with only one thought in my mind: escape. As I continued reversing, I suddenly felt the car hit something with a dull thud. My heart skipped a beat, worried I had hit someone or something, but there was no time to hesitate. I kept my foot on the gas, trying to get away as fast as possible. Finally, I managed to reverse out of the street, quickly turning the wheel and driving back to the main road. I pushed the car to its limits, frequently checking the rearview mirror to ensure no one was following. The city lights reappeared in my view, bringing a sense of safety. Entering the bustling district, I let out a slight sigh of relief and slowed down. Recalling the thrilling moment, I still felt a lingering fear. Although the city's nightlife was vibrant, dangers lurked in the shadows. To ensure my safety, I decided to stick to busier, well-lit roads in the coming days, avoiding such perilous situations again. Back home, I locked all the doors and windows and sat on the couch, reflecting on the experience. Who were those people? What were their intentions? These questions remained unanswered, but one thing was certain: they were not up to any good. Perhaps they intended to rob me, or maybe something even worse. That night I lay in bed, unable to sleep for a long time. The city's lights filtered through the curtains, bringing me a bit of comfort. I kept reminding myself to stay vigilant and learn to protect myself. In a world full of unknowns and dangers, caution is the only way to ensure safety. Since then, I never dared to take that secluded street alone at night again. No matter how urgent, I would always choose well-lit, crowded places to drive. Safety always comes first, and I did not want to experience such a life-threatening moment again. That experience was not just an escape, but a profound lesson. It made me realize that in this world, danger can appear at any time. Staying vigilant and reacting quickly are key to self-protection. I hope my experience can serve as a warning to others when driving at night. Always stay alert, choose safe routes, and protect yourself and your family. It was an ordinary Friday night. I had just finished attending a friend's party and was ready to drive home. Since the event was in an unfamiliar suburban area, I decided to rely on the car's GPS for navigation. It was already late, and there were few cars on the road. I pressed the navigation button and entered my home address. Once the GPS system activated, I followed its directions and began my journey home. Initially, everything went smoothly. I drove along the route indicated by the GPS, still immersed in the fun of the party. However, as the drive progressed, I started to feel that something was off. The GPS directed me off a main road onto a narrow country lane. The surroundings gradually became desolate, with no streetlight, only the car's headlights piercing the darkness ahead. Despite my doubts, I chose to trust the GPS instructions and continued driving. As the road became increasingly remote, My phone signal also became unstable, causing occasional delays or freezes on the map. Finally, after a sudden reboot of the navigation system, I realized I was completely lost. I pulled over trying to re-establish the navigation, but my phone had lost its signal, and the map wouldn't load. A wave of unease washed over me. The darkness and silence around me were unnerving. I decided to retrace my steps, but I found that the intersections I had passed now looked entirely different, as if I had entered an unfamiliar world. As I was grappling with anxiety, a faint light appeared ahead of me. I felt a glimmer of hope, thinking it might be a house or another vehicle. I started the engine and drove toward the light. A few minutes later, I saw an old truck parked by the roadside, with a man standing next to it, seemingly busy with something at the front of the truck. Despite feeling wary, I decided to ask him for help. I slowly approached, rolled down the window, and tentatively asked, "Excuse me, can you tell me if this is the way to the city? I'm lost." The man looked up and glanced at me, a strange smile playing on his lips. "You're lost. There's no city around here," he said, his tone sending a chill down my spine. I felt a knot in my stomach and quickly thanked him, ready to leave. But just then, the man walked to the front of my car, blocking my way. He tapped on the hood and gestured for me to get out. "Your car seems to have a problem. Let me help you check it out." Instinctively, I sensed danger. I shook my head, forcing a smile, and said, "No, thank you. My car is fine." I prepared to reverse and leave, but the man's expression turned cold, and he reached into his jacket as if looking for something. At that moment, there was a loud bang from the rear of my car, and the vehicle shook violently. In the rearview mirror, I saw another man hitting my car with an iron bar. Realizing the urgency, I floored the gas pedal, and the car surged forward. The man in front dodged aside, and I quickly turned the car around and sped away. Heart pounding, I drove as fast as I could, my mind focused solely on escaping. The car raced along the country road, and I kept glancing back, fearing they would catch up. Finally, I saw a sign ahead indicating the direction to the city. Breathing a sigh of relief, I followed the sign, feeling a bit safer. But it wasn't long before I noticed a pair of headlights quickly closing in on me in the rearview mirror. I knew I was in danger once again. The old truck was chasing me, its lights flashing erratically. I gritted my teeth, trying to stay calm, and accelerated in an attempt to shake them off. The car sped through the winding road, the night blurring the turns, making it feel like a high-speed chase scene from a movie. However, their driving skills were impressive, and they kept closing in on my tail. Just when I thought there was no escape, the small town appeared ahead, bathed in light. I rushed into the town, the presence of lights and people bringing a sense of relief. Seeing my distressed state, the townspeople looked surprised. I quickly parked and ran into a small shop, urgently asking the shopkeeper for help. "Someone's chasing me. Please help." The shopkeeper, a middle-aged man, immediately picked up the phone and called the police. Soon, the police arrived, and I recounted everything that had happened. They swiftly organized a team to search for the old truck and the two men. While waiting, the townspeople offered me a cup of hot tea, comforting me and telling me not to be afraid. After some time, the police returned, informing me that they hadn't found the truck or the men but would continue the investigation. Though the two culprits weren't caught, I knew I was out of danger. The police checked my car, confirmed it was undamaged, and I spent the night at a local inn. The next morning, under police escort, I safely made my way home. This experience left me with a deep fear of relying on navigation and driving on country roads at night. Since then, I've avoided driving alone through unfamiliar areas at night, always ensuring my phone has sufficient battery and signal, and staying vigilant. This event, though terrifying, made me value my life and safety even more.